Easy question because I always hear about all the good things about Undisputed. So what I want from each of you guys is tell me one thing you really don't like about the game.
Oh, I can go first. I'll go first. I would say just like overall atmosphere. I feel like that's. I think y'all kind of got it, but then y'all kind of like, for example, Todd's commentating, right? Remember during the beta, like that line he always used to repeat: "The winner of this fight will get a title shot." So I think sometimes with the commentary, it's like a bit redundant.
Okay.
Sometimes, and something with this league that Juice actually pointed out, just like the small things. For example, him had a women's fight, right? And then like the women's fight wasn't the typical like 10 rounds, 2 minutes thing. So yeah, stuff like that. Just like the small things add up to bigger stuff.
So the atmosphere, like commentary, crowd, the little
that's how walkouts.
Presentation.
Right.
Okay,
right. Yeah, that type of stuff.
I go. With me, it's really like the sinking of it. To be completely honest with you, like if I'm playing the game online, I gotta know what's happening. And you gotta know what's happening.
Right.
A lot of times, me and my guy 3MG, who not here, we'll play, and on my screen, hold that hook. You didn't hit me. You missed me. Now I know it's gotten better, but it's still a problem. And I feel like, and also like the punch tracking. Like sometimes one of the hooks look wonky, and I'm playing with some of the best fighters in the world. That hook shouldn't look like that. It shouldn't. If I'm that close, I shouldn't have missed it. So those are my two like biggest things. I know you asked for one.
Okay.
What I'll say desync, but I mean I think desync is an all around the room problem. We could say one of my biggest things is not holding people's hands. Like if you go in there and you gas yourself out because you want to go crazy, then you gas yourself out. If you go in there and you throw out and you get cracked with a punch, let them feel that punch, because it's a thing where people will go crazy, throw punches, and realistically you get cracked a couple times or just cracked once, you can get dropped, you can get hurt. So just like a more realistic feel when it comes to the game. Like Amir Khan is the veteran, and Amir Khan has a paper chin, but people go out there and get hit 30 times with counter punches while using Amir Khan, and it's like he's still up.
I would say loose footwork, like in this adjustment. Like I feel like loose footwork, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no tax, and people abuse it a lot. Like a lot of people like get on matches, get on loose footwork, and they start running from the first round, and I think it shouldn't be like that. That's something I don't know.
How many of you use loose footwork?
We use it, but we don't abuse it.
I use it sparingly. Yeah, I think the way it's intended to be used, everyone use it in moments to where like you're against the ropes, you feel like a little bit trapped. So
Head health is low.
yeah, head health is low, so you need to like get yourself back together, then get into the fight.
Online, when it comes to the rank demons, they're going to lose footwork, and they're going to
speed boost.
They're going to speed boost. They're going to get on the inside, hit you with 3 body jabs, get out of there. You're going to have to chase them.
And it's like you fight at heavyweight. I'm pretty sure everyone here is like a historian. I don't think I've ever seen Rocky Marciano move around the ring like you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, actually, that's a good point, because it's even during the design of what we were creating, that actually came up quite often. Like, obviously, we're trying to create something authentic, right? But you're not going to see Rocky Marciano dancing around like Ali,
right?
But then, from a game perspective, we then had to try and balance it so it doesn't become unfair. So if you're a flat-footed 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s fighter against a modern guy who's dancing around the ring, the imbalance between those two players was just too much. So we took the decision of trying to level the playing field. But then obviously on the flip side is you get instances where Rocky Marciano's dancing around the ring. And I think for us it's just around trying to find that right balance in how it can work. But yeah, I'm obviously interested in everything you guys got to say about what doesn't work.
I really don't like the judges. The way judging goes on the game is way too skewed and towards punches landed, and not exactly what it is that you're throwing. So, for example, power shots, counter shots, while they do impact the scoring a little bit, doesn't impact it enough. So people who are just mashing jabs on the inside or just throwing things that don't make sense, they can win fights that they shouldn't win because it's not like real pro scoring where it's more about damage done and clean, effective shots. So I think it's way too skewed towards punches like.
So I think that's interesting because judging is something we've definitely been adjusting over since early access. And in the beginning, it was a very complex system where, like, even making somebody miss, you would score points, and then there was a weighting in terms of, like, depending on whether you landed a jab, whether you blocked, whether you counted. But then we would then get complaints from people saying, hang on, I landed more shots than this guy. Why have I lost?
Right.
Because it's about what he's like.
True, but then it's just like an overall view of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
But we just felt like no matter which solution we chose, there were always people who thought they should have won that fight, and they had valid reasons, right? So we decided to go down the route of, I guess, almost favoring aggression, just because visually, it's like if somebody's landing more shots, it was an easier decision to make. But again, we're not always going to get the right decision just by using that choice.
Right.
You don't play the game, Steve.
Well, I do, but he makes a great point. I mean, if you're having fights with upset fans over judging, maybe it is realistic. But I think maybe that part's actually really good. But
That's the part we don't want to
But here's the thing, though. He makes a great point. Professional boxing, they talk about the four criteria, right? Punching, ring generalship, defense, and whatever that. I think that's hogwash. 80% of this is about punching. All that other stuff is like you want to find an excuse for your guy to win. Well, he danced good.
Yeah.
Well, what is ring generalship? Well, you're moving around. All right, what if you're 3 feet away from the guy and you never land a punch? You're ring generaling me right into sleep.
Right.
So the other thing is, the point that he's making is the quantity of punches does matter, but the quality in professional boxing. Now, in the amateur system, it is a point system. So a knockdown has the same value, 1 point, as a jab. So that's why it's flawed. Now in boxing, you can land 3 punches to a guy's 10, but if my 3 punches has you out on your feet, those 3 punches are going to be more valuable, and you'll probably win a 10-9 round. But there's also a thing, I was pointing this out, you look at like a CompuBox, right? Everyone uses CompuBox. Now that's a data, that's not the way you judge a fight, but it was pointed out to me that generally about 80% of the times when one guy lands more punches than the other, just quantitatively, they generally do win the fight. So you're right, there's a balance, because judging fights is not really a science, it's really kind of an art form, but it's a subjective one. That's the problem.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? Why is there 30 different judges in the game that score the fight instead of a criteria that everybody can work towards and know what's happening, since we're all trying to be competitive?
So that decision was made so that the initial thought process was that so people couldn't just find a meta in terms of, oh, this is the judge that's going to favor this style of fighting. So we tried to give them personalities, again, to try and replicate the sport, but then again, like using the same analogy in terms of loose movement for everybody, like just because something happens really in the sport doesn't mean it's going to be a good gameplay experience. And that's something that we've learned, right? Where I think there's some instances where we might have gone too far down that simulation route, where just because it happens in the sport doesn't mean it's what we recreate in the game.
Ash, you ever thought of having a judge that's so bad that he may be on the fix? So like just throw it in there. So it's like make it like real boxing.
Don't do
like the real life Colby Shirley. That guy was always he was always the one judge that had like a bad scorecard. So you gotta just throw one in there just like randomly.
No, don't do that. Hell no.
Robberies.
They do that enough in this game already. We don't need that.
So you joke about that, right? But
Well, not really.
so in the early design of our career mode, we were going to throw in 1 or 2 things that happen in boxing, which are quite unsavory. But when we started licensing the British Boxing Board of Control, and the governing bodies, we were like, yeah, we can't do any of this.
So you want to replace Russell Wilson?
Thank you.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, one of my issues with the game, I want to take a different approach outside of gameplay. I'm going to go with the lack of immersion of the career mode. It's pretty much just
That's good.
create a character, fight, and do these little checklist things. It'd be pretty cool if we can actually have them hitting bags, actually sparring, bringing in actual boxers into it, and have them spar them, and then do little challenges. Oh, you gotta hurt this boxer. I just feel like that was a huge missed opportunity, especially when you get to the last boxing game that we all know of, which is Fight Night Champion. People can say whatever they want to say about the game, but the story mode was actually pretty dope, and I feel like that was a huge missed opportunity to not have an in-depth story mode or an in-depth experience when it comes to that. It's just create a fighter, slap some animations on them, fight, and rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
No, it's a valid point, right? And I think from my perspective, career mode for me, even during the early designs that we still have, our career mode had press conferences, it had weigh-ins, it had everything as far as even the training aspects. Now, wanting that and making it a reality in terms of the budget and timeline we had to choose out of all the things we wanted in a career mode, what can we deliver in the time that we had. And look, I think coming from the Fight Night series, I loved 3, 4 and Champion, right? And yeah, the story mode in Champion, I felt that took story mode in sports games to a new level. I don't think there was a sports title before Champion that had a story mode like that. But I think what I have to sometimes remember, because I'm feeling the same as you, right? Is that this is our very first stab at doing a career mode or even a boxing game, right? Whereas if you look at Fight Night or any of the sports titles that have amazing career modes, those guys have had decades to iterate and make improvements on what the next version is going to be. So for us, whether it's gameplay, visuals, roster, career mode, story mode, we know there's huge levels of improvements we can make. But I guess one way to look at it is almost if you look at the very first version of Fight Night and the very first version of our game, that for me is an equal comparison, because it's always the first attempt of what somebody's done. And for me, it's not something I'm remotely concerned about us in terms of not being able to do that, because I just feel if this is the first go around, I think we've done a decent job. But there's still levels above that we can hit.
Yeah, especially especially in the future with Undisputed. I would love to see the real deal career mode where you have let's say you have this creator that's bald, and you can actually use this creator in the game to showcase the fighter, talk about him on his social media, stuff like that. He could probably say, you know what, I wasn't impressed with your performance, or something like that. Just throwing that out there. I'm available. That if you need somebody for the story mode, with a pretty good following, I'll be there for you. We can incorporate that into it.
So basically,
I'll keep that in mind.
Basically, a story mode.
Yeah.
It sums down a story mode.
Yeah.
Cutscenes, all that,
Yeah.
decisions you have to make. Let this decision tie into this. I'm not sure if you played the game, The Quarry.
Which one, sorry?
The Quarry. It's
like a choice base. Yeah.
It's basically a decision you made. Part 1 can change the outcome in a completely. So
anything you do in the first game affects on the third game.
Yeah.
So a story modes like that where people can really be into it. Even the replay value be good because it's different choices.
Yeah, and I think
really
we all really stay on the online side of it, but I can pretty much vouch. We all at least get one comment on a video talking about career mode. I've had conversations with viewers or subscribers about it. So I think there's a really core group of people that really value that side of the game.
And to go to, because I thought everybody was going to just do online. I wanted to touch on offline, especially when you're in your career mode and you get that rundown of who you're fighting. This is an aggressive, come forward type of fighter, something along those lines. You get in there and you're expecting, okay, I got a counter punch, and y'all just get in the ring and y'all are staring at each other. He's not aggressive. He's not throwing combinations. A suggestion like we all know him, Poe in the community. He suggested like sliders, and that had me thinking like sliders to kind of, I guess, portray that fighter as that. So I got this aggressive counterpuncher. Let me go turn up the slider for his punch volume.
Sliders.
Yeah, tendencies. Yeah,
Yeah,
things like that.
That's his thing.
Is that something that can be done to bring more life into the career mode? Because with the AI, it's either been a button reading machine that I can't hit, or it's just been too easy. There's never really been a well balanced AI.
So it's a really good point. I think one of the things that we've created in Undisputed is the levels in terms of the characteristics that the fighters have. There are dozens of them, and what we discussed in studio was essentially opening them all up for players to have their own sliders, right? So you can create almost your own AI, as you just said, right? In terms of aggression, the kind of punches, and it is something that we had as part of our roadmap. I think we've even spoken about it. Maybe before your time, Jeremy. I think I'm looking at Will. Will's not here, but yeah, it was something that we were planning on doing, because I think once you've played the game to a level where, let's say, you've just finished everything, you want that further additional challenge, right? And I think sliders opens that up. But we came across some technical difficulties in terms of implementing it to a level that was good enough, so it didn't make the cut. But absolutely, I think when it comes to customization, that is something that we have to make a priority, for sure.
So for me, career mode is big for sure. Like my content, what I do most of the time is all career mode related stuff. My users love it. So, but I feel like everybody did a good job of touching on it. I think like the core thing, obviously, that we all will agree on, gameplay just got to be better, because we can have a great career mode, but if the gameplay not where it needs to be, then wouldn't nobody want to get deep into it.
Yeah.
So I know y'all know a lot of the issues. Like I said, syncing with the punches, some animations, but also too, like if y'all could, like we would love to see the damage that we're doing to somebody just a little bit more. Like I could be hitting somebody with a bunch of hooks, and at the end of the fight, it look like they ready to go to the party. So if we could get a little better, better visual representation on the fighters, round after round after a fight, like, okay, just hook to his right eye, it's done damage. Like you played the fight nights, like how some of them would used to do.
Yeah, no, I think that is something that we've tweaked over time, and I think
it got better.
One of our very early builds, the damage was like, I'm not gonna say way over the top, but like in comparison to where the game is at now, it was like, oh, you can like clearly see this guy is like. Actually, I don't know how many of you can remember the very first
picture with the guy with the eye.
Movement trailer with
Conor Ben and Josh Warrington. Yeah.
Like the damage at that level, is more than what we've got in the game now. And I think what we've had to do over time is, not that licensing is an issue, but sometimes that can causes one or two issues in terms of whether it's like the likes of the British Boxing Board of Control not making sure that we're not glorifying violence and things like that, right? So like me as a boxing fan and a gamer first and foremost, I wanted to do all this kind of stuff, right? So I went pretty wild on some of these ideas, but then I also learned the challenges that licensing brings. But that's not to say we can, like if we should be busted noses and all kinds of things in there, because it's what happens in boxing, right? So yeah, I think that is an area that's kind of on our.
Wait, hold on before you go. Let them go. Yeah.
I think my biggest gripe with the game right now is probably the overall ebb and flow of getting a real fight is skewed right now because of the blocking. The blocking is too strong. Nobody should just be able to hold R2 and be able to defend off everything. I think if you really want to capture the essence of boxing and get the ebb and flow proper, the moment somebody hits R2, that block meter should be depleted. There should be a penalty for holding it so that they have to let go of it often so that people can work on the actual nuances of the sport more often. Like that's just an issue. Or make the feint significant. If they're holding the block, I should be able to feint, trick the computer so that I can open the block up and get other things going on. So right now the feint has an insignificance in that aspect because the block is so strong.
Correct.
And that's my biggest gripe with the game is the block.
Okay. No, it's definitely a valid shout. I think blocks being an issue, I think in a number of updates, where we've either gone too far in terms of the block health depleting to the point where there's been it was probably a bug more rather than balancing, where you just could not block Deontay Wilder's punch, right? So yeah, I think it's definitely a valid shout.
Is it off?
Yeah.
Box.
I would say, just like Price said, like we all just say desync because like that's just the biggest thing for me is just the desync. And then like with this last DLC patch, it was cool to have was it Emmanuel Augustus, Teofimo Lopez with their own unique animations. Like that was like a breath of fresh air. Like just for me to be like, oh man, there's somebody up in here that's different. You know what I mean? Because there's still a lot of fighters. I know you guys like I see them on the wall right there. There's a lot of fighters with their own unique animations as well. But there's also a lot of like almost like cookie cutter, like I don't mean no disrespect or anything, but they got the same exact animations as this guy, same animations as this guy, so it's like just having that uniqueness with certain fighters and like it's cool.
No, I agree. I think for me, I'd love to have every single fighter in the roster to have their own unique moves, right? But then I need like a team of like 500 people, and like as much as I would love to have the size and resources of other AAA studios, we have to kind of be selective in who we're doing. But I just love the fact that we were able to do, like, bring somebody like Emmanuel Augustus in, right? With that unique movement. But yeah, I think it just adds not just realism, but different ways to play the game, right? But I've got I've got a question for you guys, like. Whether you're playing against an offline player or online, if you both played the game like you actual boxers, so you use the game as it's been designed to be played, would you agree or disagree that the gameplay is way better than how the general overall feel for the game is right now?
I think that's what our league is showing.
Yeah.
The gameplay is better.
It's better. Like I always bring it up. I brought it up yesterday. The conversation with Will. He had Hector Camacho and I had Ricky Hatton. And one of the things Diaz brought up with the loose movement, how the space on outside fighting is just so wide. But when he was outside fighting, he was in loose movement too. It felt like a real boxing fight. Now he was moving, setting traps and whatnot, but the essence of me pressuring and making it close quarters and just him maneuvering around the ring made that fight great. I think the problem is, like, we all love boxing. I got no disrespect to anyone who plays, but some guys just like playing games, so they're gonna do whatever it takes just to win, just to have that win. They're not interested in the intricacies. They don't care about if a punch lands and it doesn't get scored. They just want to get a knockout. They don't care about Emmanuel Augustus having unique movements. So I think having just the continued mindset of that boxing just triumphs everything else, I think that's a really good thing to
So
have.
the reason I'm asking that, right, is because that's exactly how we made the game or designed the game to be played, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's something that has to be said for the likes of the 2Ks and the EAs in their sports games, where the one thing that I've learned with what we've made is the game allows you to play terribly, right? And the game allows you to play in a way where it makes the game look bad as well.
Yeah.
But then sometimes, if something's unbalanced, it can almost reward them for playing that way, right? Whereas, I guess, other titles that have gone through those iterations, they've really narrowed the scope so that even if you're playing terribly, it doesn't look terrible. So they've almost reduced the scope of how you can play the game, which has its pros and its cons. But and the challenge that we've got, and outside, I think someone mentioned like one of the issues earlier. So when we've designed a feature, we're playing it and testing it how you would play it as a boxer, or if you're playing it realistically. And what we didn't do in the early days was try and cheese the game or try and play in a way that we won't naturally be playing. And I think doing it that way, we've almost opened up issues by sticking to that. Okay, we want this to be as realistic as possible. And I think the challenge for us is almost dialing parts of it back so then it doesn't open exploits. And that's the key challenge, right? In making sure that it's still a competitive, balanced game, where people aren't just trying to throw a million punches and just having that balanced view. So I think that's definitely a learning process for us, and it's something that we're taking forward.
Let Dark. Yeah, let Dark.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I'll answer the first part. You just asked the most recent question regarding like playing against other people who are fighting similarly. I played Juice out in this room. I played Juice more times than anybody in this room, easily. And those fights have probably been one of my favorite fights in the game, just because we're both trying to actually box. And we've played all divisions, but of course, I think both of our favorites is the women's lightweight division, which I feel like is probably the most balanced division in the game. All fighters, I feel like, in that division are pretty much usable, and those have by far been my favorite fights, without a doubt, just because it's definitely a different experience when someone's actually trying to box. And you can kind of use something like Cold-Blooded mentioned how feints are basically they're real inconsequential online, especially, and most of that also is due to people. They're not really thinking about what they're trying to throw or how they're trying to defend stuff. So there's no point in even trying to use your feints against them, because they're not going to respond to them regardless. So they're going to do the one thing they're trying to do, so they're not thinking of trying to counter what you're trying to do. And that opens up another part of the gameplay like that, and that's one of the issues, fighting people who aren't trying to actually box. But regarding one of the things I dislike the most in the game by far is the fighter ratings. It just bothers me so much, the fighter ratings, because I'm somebody who likes to use a lot of people on the roster. I use a wide variety of boxers. So when somebody new comes out, like when Eric Morales comes out, and his health stats are extremely low for the type of fighter he was, he would be in tons of wars. Riddick Bowe's the same way. Riddick Bowe has lower health stats than you would imagine for someone who was in 15-round wars or multiple wars with Evander Holyfield. Caleb Plant being slower than people like Canelo. Like the little things that I think would increase the usage of certain boxers in the game, because I think that's why another issue is there's so many people use Sugar Ray Robinson, Ali, basically anybody who's at the top of the division, because the people who are even in the mid-tier, even sometimes their stats aren't what they need to be to give them a chance to fight against some of the titans in the division, and that causes an issue where everybody's just using the same fighters over and over again. Like you could use a lower tier fighter. Like I guess that's a good example of that would be somebody like Butterbean, for example, right? Obviously, he's a much lower tier fighter than Ali and people of that stature. But if his power, right? If you can land his power, his big power hooks, things of that nature, that gives you something you can use to beat somebody who's way faster, way more mobile. It gives you a chance in that fight. But if Ali is basically just as strong as Butterbean, he's faster, counterpunching, all of that is exactly the same. It gives no incentives to use anybody else in the division, because you can do everything with the top tier fighters. So that's one of the things that definitely irks me the most regarding the game, for sure.
I mean, look, those are all points that I think we've also discussed internally, because I think there's elements where, some of the ratings could do with changing, but at the same time, I guess there's also an element of differentiating the fighters as well, where, let's say, for example, we do lift up certain stats for a bunch of fighters, or even bring down some stats for certain fighters, then what we then find is there's a large percentage of them that are all very similar, right? In terms of, like, they could all be like between the 84 to 87 range, and then we end up with a lot of fighters that the stats aren't different enough. But then we have to also encourage people to use fighters that aren't the, as you said, the Alis and the Sugar Ray Robinsons, because like you go online and you probably just come across the similar kind of fighters all the time as well. So I mean, we've even discussed we were talking the other day with myself and Will, like doing away with ratings to a certain extent, and I think even talking about tiers, putting them in tier systems. So I think it's definitely something that's as with a lot of the feedback we're getting from you guys, right? I think for us it's just about finding something that's gonna work in the long term. But I think with the amount of fighters we've got in the game as well, that's when it comes to ratings, again, it's about making sure that they don't feel and look like just like avatars, right? And that's a key thing for me right now.
And if I could add to that too, because I remember like in early access, I don't know at what point it changed as far as like the damage, but you'd be surprised. There was a lot of people that used Dalton Smith. Dalton Smith was he was someone I would bring into ranked at one point, right? Now, if someone sees me with Dalton Smith, it doesn't matter who they're using. They're coming forward and walking me down. Just power everything. And I don't know what changed, but I don't have a chance anymore against those taller, higher guys. And I think it has something to do with how damage is done, right? The higher stats, I can't hurt them, but they can hurt me. So when did that change, and why is it just health bar versus health bar right now?
I think if memory serves me correctly, I think there was a period where I think we were getting a lot of feedback around the game just feels like a 12-round chess match, right?
There weren't enough finishes. And for I guess the purists or people who love to fight like that, it's a great experience. I mean, I remember going through 12-round fights, and I'm like, this is just amazing because we're playing it like literally as a chess match, right? But I think, and this is where it becomes difficult in terms of like getting feedback and different parts of the community in terms of what they want. And I think at that time, we felt like it was heavily skewed towards, you guys have made a very technical game. There's like little action in here. We want more action. We want more events. We want more things to happen in here. Yeah. So we did dial that up to try and find a balance. But then I guess this comes back to the whole customization piece as well, where it's almost like I'd love to be able to put something in front of you guys where you can just decide for yourselves in terms of like how fast you want fights to finish. And I know there's the damage, like multiplier and everything, but it's more nuanced than that. And that reminds me, when early on ESBC days, like a casual mode and a hardcore mode, is that being discussed now, or is it just out the window?
So the whole casual and hardcore mode, I mean, we had in the early designs, it didn't make early access, but like we even had like a black and white mode and a sepia mode and a 70s mode, where like the whole UI changed. And I think for us it was just a case of, again, trying to find a balance that the entire community is going to be happy about. And look, I've spoken to the guys at 2K and EA over the last few years, and like the not that it was a joke from their side, but it was like, like welcome to our world of like trying to keep the casuals and the hardcore players happy, right? We've been trying for 20 years and we're still trying to find that sweet spot. So like, enjoy the journey kind of things. But look, I think for us, for me personally, right, I've always preferred hardcore games. Like, no hand holding, just, almost learn all the intricacies yourself, right? So I think I've said it before in interviews where, like, I was on Dark Souls New Game Plus 8. Like, for me, that was my game. And I want, for me to make the boxing game, I wanted it to be like that. But then I needed more than 5 people to play the game, right? So it's just about finding that balance. And I think the whole casual versus hardcore piece, I mean, that's not something that's gone away from us. there's all these elements that you guys have spoken about that are definitely in our mindsets.
I definitely think with
Like nobody cares I raised my hand.
Go ahead. Go. I mean, whoever. Yeah, no, you already started. You already.
All right. Thank you. All right. This is my question. It's more like a two-piece question. I think one of the major things that the game is missing, that's in boxing, is a parry system. Like I just feel like that's just a huge opportunity missed, not being able to parry, because that will open up so many other things, and it will close the actual skill gap. That if the opponent is doing something over and over again, like you're extremely limited to how you can deal with it. And I know me and Pride talked about this a lot, is that why is it that players can be so successful doing one thing, but I have to do all these things to try to counter it, and they just have to do one thing? Prime example, in the very beginning of early access, the step back cross, the uppercuts to the body. Now it's the jab to the body. It's there's not enough tools to deal with the actual meta. And I feel like there's a huge opportunity just missed with an actual parry system. And then the next one we'll talk about is the lean back. I don't understand, why is it that people can just lean back and just as the primary defense to avoid pretty much all punches, body shots, jabs, hooks. It just doesn't make sense. You don't really see people in boxing just leaning back and staying back like that. Is there any consideration to actually, put a timer on how much you can lean back instead of, or like increase the range of punches that can still land on leaning back? Why is that just like the number one defense of a player to just lean back in the game?
Okay, so I think first of all, in terms of the parry system, I remember like some of the fight nights had a parrying system, right? I think round 3, I think was the first one that had it.
It was so overpowered.
It kind of went into slow motion, right? But I think the challenge that we had was, I think we just ran out of buttons. It was just, honestly, it came to that, right? Even
I mean, I get it. I not to be disrespectful, I respect that, but it's like you take a game like Street Fighter. Like, yeah, they all got the same buttons, but the way that you change it, like, there's always modifiers. Like, I feel like there should be like a defensive modifier.
Yeah.
We have all these offensive modifiers, but being able to hold, let's say, L1 to actually initiate parries, or R1 for the block, I just feel like there's more that can be done with the controller scheme.
So I guess there was probably a bit of a flippant comment from me. So in terms of the control scheme, I think the way the game was built in those early days, we had a control scheme that we then just added things on, and we kept on adding things on to the point where it was like, okay, for us to now fundamentally change or add a feature, we're gonna have to almost redesign the entire thing. And so look, I'd love to be able to put a parry system in. I'd love to be able to put in head movement whilst you're moving, right? So like all of these things, for us, we're learning from some of the mistakes we've made. And listen, we've made a ton of mistakes, right? Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, we've made the perfect game and like, what are you guys complaining about? It's literally the purpose of me asking these questions, because everything that you guys have said, like, there isn't anything that anyone said that I'm thinking, like, oh shit, like, why have we not done anything here, right? And for us, it's all about, like, okay, all these things that we're taking and we're learning from, it's just going to allow us to build something better, right? And whether it's a parry system, whether it's a head movement, we're taking all of these things into consideration.
Oh, I was just gonna say about the like what Juice was saying, the casual mode, the hardcore mode. I mean, I'm I play games like League of Legends and stuff, and they have like PBE where people would be on the updates that's coming out way before it comes out, and even if it isn't something like that where it's like a mode where if I'm, like I said, stop giving people so many chances. Like if you keep making this dumb mistake and I keep cracking you for it, not let them do that. Like a hardcore mode essentially. Right?
Yeah.
Personally, to piggyback off that, I know you brought up the Dark Souls thing, and playing those games, it's like they don't hold your hand. And I feel like with boxing, nobody's hand is held. If you, like for example, Pitbull Cruz, I think this is probably gonna be the perfect example. He's a hook merchant. That's just me being honest. He's a hook merchant, and I feel like when he finally fought someone that was technical enough to stop that, he didn't have an answer for it. So I feel like when people get this game, personally, I don't want two different modes. That I don't know how everybody else feel. People need to learn. For like in a street fight, somebody know how to kickbox, somebody know how to box. You're not gonna say, "Wait, hold on, let me not kick you." No, you gonna kick him. That's not my fault. You didn't take the time out to properly defend yourself. So I feel like when it comes to this game specifically, I feel like it should be a matter of skill rather than. I'm not gonna say over fun, because obviously we all want to have fun playing the game, but I think fun shouldn't stand in the way of skill. If I'm making sense with that, because again, me and Will and all of us had that conversation about Street Fighter and all these FGC games, Mortal Kombat and whatnot. Them games don't hold your hand. Trust me, I tried. I suck at every single one of them. I suck. So I just feel like when people know, and I truly believe this. You saw some of the streamers playing early access, some of the bigger streamers. Some of those guys were having fun just learning boxing. So I think there's gonna be people, it's gonna outweigh the majority of casuals who don't want to learn rather than those who do learn. If I made sense with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's just a classic case, right, for us to try and balance that view with the community, right? And I think that's a challenge we're always going to have. But as long as we're listening and taking that on board, it's something that we have to do, right? And I think I'll give a quick example of, I might have mentioned the Deontay Wilder book, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was quite clearly something we had to fix. But I'll tell you now, the number of messages that I got from people to say we've ruined the game by fixing that, right?
Yeah.
But and this is the challenge that we have as developers, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, this clearly needs to be sorted out, but then we've just pissed off a whole group of people and a significant amount. So it's like if something in our eyes, as easy as that is, this absolutely has to be fixed. If that can cause such a problem in the community, then the smaller nuanced stuff that we're changing and tweaking, that causes even bigger problems. So for us, it's all about trying to find that right balance. And I think, listen, if it was purely something that I wanted to do, the game would be way more hardcore than it is right now.
Yeah.
I think.
Look.
I'm basically about to talk about some fight night. This is something that he would really want to implement to the game. Something that I like too, even if it's something I don't know how far down the line it can be implemented, is tutorial mode. I mean, there's creators like me, Fight Night, really good at teaching it. Like, or somebody like Dark, he's really good at inside fighting. If there was a way where they could be taught, like maybe how to counter this. It was a tutorial mode where we could basically implement videos into it to teach it. It would be great for newer players or people that don't truly understand the game. You'd be like, how do I? How am I supposed to beat this dude that's doing this? And then there could be a tutorial how to beat this punch, how to beat that. And that way it'll help out the people that they think that the game sucks, but no, you just suck.
It's a great idea. I mean, this is all being recorded, right? So let's take some of this stuff afterwards. We'll
I have a question. The ranked leaderboards have been, same with the win and loss records, have been the same since the game's come out. And it was supposed to be different seasons, so season 0 and I guess it's season 1. So that recently got removed. Is there any plan to reset records? both in quick match and rank?
No plans right now. I think for us, it was around prioritizing some of the things that needed sorting in the game, and the resource and time we had. And I think in terms of, I suppose, the general consensus, I think everybody said, right, desyncs was probably one of the biggest challenges or issues with the game. And like, I don't know how much we've spoken about in terms of like why it is the way it is. But
We talked about it a little bit yesterday about the physics.
Yeah, if we can go into more detail.
I mean, look, I think at a very simple level, right? When we designed the actual boxing experience of having like over 70 different punches, the movement system, how it is almost a sandbox in terms of the ring, where it's not as controlled as other fighting games, right? It kind of lets you do what you want to do, which goes back to my point of you can make the game look bad if you want to make it look bad, right? So I wanted to really make the perfect boxing experience between two players fighting, and I'm just talking about offline, right? And again, like first time around doing this, I thought, okay, we've really nailed the in-ring experience now. We were having amazing games, super realistic, and then we took that online, right? So our network engineers, and they looked at this and they were like, what the hell have you done? Like, you know, this is not how you make a multiplayer game, right? And the reality is, other online multiplayer games, they are way more simplified than Undisputed. Like, there's no comparison. Like, I'm not gonna talk down on any of the game. They're amazing products. But what we've got in our game from a technical standpoint, we've had 2 or 3 studios that specialize in online play who have worked on multiple AAA big titles, and they looked at what we did, and you know, we've made some improvements to desyncing, but the simple reality was that you know, we've got a game that for multiplayer, it is not optimized completely for multiplayer, right? So we have to go back to the drawing board and literally change how we built the game, so that it becomes, you know, it becomes a solid, stable multiplayer game. Because the desyncs, like, we know there's issues. Sometimes I guess the tricky thing as well is, like, I've had fights where there hasn't been a single problem, but then there are multiple fights that do have that problem. So for us, again, it was about, okay, what can we dial back without severely restricting the offline experience, right? Because what we can't have as well is 2 different games, where the offline game is different to the online game.
So, like, for me, like, I'm blessed. Like, when I go live, I get a decent amount of viewers. Like, and I can say, like, I'll be trying to showcase the game, but obviously, you know, the desync's a problem. Like, the desync, it'll kill the momentum of, like, the stream. Because, like, they might be vibing with the game, and then I'm backing up, I'm getting hit by something, and he's not even close to me. Then the chat go from, okay, I might try to tell him, man, that shit look trash. Like, and, like, I remember when the game first was coming out, I'm like, yo, I'm buying 3 copies, I'm doing giveaways, and I knew y'all were a small studio, a newer studio. I'm like, it don't matter, I want to support the game. But then, like, when it comes out and then I'm showcasing it, like, obviously, y'all know that these things are a problem. I know y'all deal with this every day, but I'm just saying, I can only say from my perspective, I'm like, damn, I can't even say nothing to the chat when this is happening. Like, because the main thing is, I know y'all got all these technical things, but it has to look good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I'm streaming it, I'm like, all right, chat, let's do something else. Like, because I'm getting hit by something that ain't there.
No, look, I agree. I think for us, you know, we have made it hard on ourselves. Like, there's a lot of things in the game that we've made harder on ourselves for that purpose of, we want to make the most realistic game.
For sure.
And you know, being like in this for 5 years now, having developed Undisputed for 5 years, like, you know, we know the mistakes we made, and some of the decisions we made in year 1, in the first 6 months, like have you know, put us down a path that you know, I think in again, I'm talking about what we can do in the future here, but at the same time, I do feel like we have delivered a boxing game that is unlike any other, and I think for us, it was about building a foundation, right? And you know, using Undisputed as that foundation. I feel like we do have the right building blocks, but you know, this isn't the you know, complete finished vision of what we had for Undisputed. So you know, we're on that journey, and you know, I appreciate all the feedback you guys give, and you know, all the content you guys make.
100%.
So yeah.
I got
Cope,
one question
Cope.
that I know I gotta ask it for everybody out there. Floyd Mayweather. I want to hear it from you. Can we get Money Mayweather in the game?
I'm not gonna say no. It's been a no so far, right? But with many fighters who are in the game now, they were also a no in the early days or during the middle periods, right? So I think here's the thing, right? I think the bigger Undisputed has got, the more easier it's been for us to sign fighters, right? And it's understandable for fighters to turn around and say, well, you ain't EA Sports, like, you know, what games have you made? It's like, well, nothing really. So like, yeah, Steve. I mean, Steve helped us sign many fighters, right? And you know, Steve's own reputation was kind of on the line at certain points.
Guys, I can tell you this: we tried everybody. We came up with the list, tried to pare it down, and I was part of the original crew along with Jose. So basically, we tried to say, hey, who are like 1,000 boxers that would be good for the game, past, current, present. We always have a running list. So basically, the way it would work is I'd have to call a representative of the fighter. I tried never to reach the fighter by himself. Even if I did, I said, who's your manager or lawyer? We tried to make this above board. So then we could write a book on this. We would present a deal. And my protocol was, as soon as they said, we're interested, then I shoot it up to Jose. I give him the general parameters of the deal. But he can tell you that these guys wanted ownership, the firstborn, they wanted a car, and we're thinking, hey guys, you know, and so the funny thing was, so I'd go Undisputed, and they'd be like, Undisputed what? No, that's the name, and you're right, there was this thing about, you're not EA. You're right, but our point was EA has not made a game in a decade, and what we found out was the advantage, but also made our jobs much more difficult in recruiting fighters. When you do the Major League Baseball, NFL, and even the UFC, they have a players union, but they have a license with a collective bargaining agreement. So once you make a deal with the league, you're getting every single player in that union.
Yeah.
Boxing, every single guy, even if they're with the promoter, they're all independent contractors. So it's not like I can call Bob Arum and he gives us every single top-ranked fighter. We had to go to every single top-ranked fighter individually. And some of the managers were very compliant. They understood the vision. They said, we'll work with you. We want the exposure. Other guys literally wanted ownership, and we're like, we haven't even put out a game yet.
Yeah. I mean, look, it has been difficult. I think Steve and the team and everyone involved have done an insane job considering the size of our roster for the size of our studio, right? I mean, I think, you know, Fight Night Champion launched with 53, 55 fighters, right? So I think for us though, like as boxing fans, of course I want, you know, Floyd in the game. So we're you know, the door is never shut. We'll keep trying. But it's just the reality of what we have to deal with sometimes. Like, you know, we've had comebacks where like the manager said, you can't sign this guy if you don't take these 10 others.
Right.
And you know, for us, it's a challenge sometimes, and even like we're doing this also for the love of the sport, and for us to be able to pay fighters who have retired and give them an income. I mean, that's something that is really important to us. And like for some of the fighters have earned more money from the game than they did actually fighting in the ring. And you know, that's something that we want to continue to be able to do.
And Ash, we have to be honest, I think there are some fighters that regret not taking the original deal.
Yeah, oh yeah. For sure.
That's happened too.
Yeah.
I mean, look, in this game, you're always a left hook away from being a has-been. And that's the harsh reality of this thing. It really is a kind of a fight-to-fight career. But, you know, when we started this process, when Jose explained it to me, I said, but there's going to be a boxing video game. I remember my friends playing Fight Night, and I said, that game was what was it last 2011,
I think it was.
Wow. And that is what I have been told is that one of the reasons why EA Sports stopped making the game, they got sick of dealing with boxing. They really did. They actually got sick of like certain things, certain people, the unregulated nature of it. It turned people off. It really did. It turned certain people off at that corporation at least.
Yeah, and so it's much easier to do a single deal with a
league.
another combat league and make a game, right? But look, we're boxing fans, so like for us, we were like, no matter what the hurdles were, how difficult it was, we have to try. So I'd like to think we've come a long way.
It's funny though when like I have a list of prospects that me and Jose are always adjusting. Like I think that guy in 2 years, like Abdullah Mason, Bruce Carrington. There are certain guys I look at, I think these guys should be in the game. The worst thing that I hear is like when they have an agency, and I'm like, oh jeez. You know, like the Gennady Golovkin call is still funny because if it was Tom Loeffler still in charge, we would have had a deal in 2 days. He hired this new agency. It was the worst phone call we ever had. It was the funniest thing. It was actually so bad. We said, right.
So I mean, so one of the things is, and I guess I don't know if this is useful insight for you guys or not, but one of the challenges we come across is whenever we like negotiate with some of whether the agencies or managers, they treat it as they negotiate a fight. So when they're negotiating a fight with a promoter or a network, right? Their guy is top of the bill, okay? So. But DLC wise, the reality is we've got to pay these guys, right? So like nobody's gonna come into the game. Obviously, we're not gonna expect anyone to come in for free. We pay everybody, and I think with regards to DLC, it's just literally a way for us to be able to pay all the fighters that are on top of everybody else that we're paying already.
So is that why it's? Because I get this so much. Is that why it's bundled in rather than separate by each fighter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
With that same philosophy, I'm just put it out there. I would pay $29.99 personally for just Mike Tyson. Like, wow. I kid you not. Like, because if you take a game like Fortnite, people are paying just $20 for Kai Cenat.
Yeah.
I would pay $30 for Mike Tyson. I would pay maybe $28.99 for Floyd.
Yes, especially because I mean, but
like that's where gaming is going though.
I understand your point, right? I understand your point. But again, for us, it goes back to the whole community, right? Now, if you look at the press that we would receive for charging $30 for one fighter, like we would be better. We'd be better.
No, it'll be bad. It's gonna be bad.
And the reason, like I said, if you go back to Fortnite, you don't have to pay for it.
We've included 75 fighters for $40, and we still get bad press for that.
It's not Mike Tyson.
Muhammad Ali, Alexander Usyk, Terence Crawford, Canelo Alvarez, all these guys in the base game. Hey, this is too much.
Man, I get people complaining about the
30 for Mike.
Man, I'm gonna be honest.
They have to pay 100 for mine.
The community I've been in front of, I know my community don't represent all the gaming. Y'all do that, y'all get cooked.
No, it's like that. Yeah, it's like that for
Until you
everybody.
see me using Mike Tyson that I paid $30 for, and you don't have him.
Yeah, I was thinking.
But that's honestly, the combat sports community is just cheap. Very cheap.
Yeah.
Very cheap because I play again going to League of Legends. There's skins on there
For $50.
For $50, and people they're gonna come. Either you're gonna complain or you're gonna buy. Like it boils down to that. But the combat community, you can give them. You can charge $5 for a DLC pack, and somebody gonna complain in the combat sports community. But Fortnite have skins. I don't know how much Kyson has.
Marvel Rivals.
And there ain't gonna be a forum, no list or nothing that says nobody that skin is too much.
It was I believe because I ain't gonna lie, I did spend money on it. I spent $22 plus tax on a Spider-Man skin in Marvel Rivals. It was the oh no, I remember because it hurt. Hey man, when you spend money on stuff like that, it hurts. So It was the Infinity War skin that they have in Marvel Rivals, and I spent $22. But I don't think people, if people have a passion and they love something, I think they'll pay for it. But $30, I ain't gonna lie. I don't care how much money I got. I'm not paying $30 for no. Yeah, but people complain like you get 8 fighters for $15, and we're talking about.
We have the DLC, and when they see like the championship edition come out and the gameplay isn't where it needs to be, there's an uproar, and they're mad because it kind of comes off like they're trying to get more money out of us, which again you won't, because we have everything that's mentioned in it. But I think what a lot of people are feeling and don't know how to articulate is it kind of comes off a little tone deaf, that there's a championship edition trying to get new people in, but they're gonna come in and run into the issues that we have now. Why? I guess the timing of it. Why is it like that? Is this just something that had to be done? Like, why is that?
Okay, so I guess I'll try and break this down in a couple of pieces. So, in terms of like the view around the gameplay, like obviously we've discussed the improvements that need to be made in the gameplay, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, you know, I think we've shipped almost like 1.7 million units, something like that, right? The majority of players enjoy the game, and those are the players that, you know, they'll play the game, have a few fights with their friends, and that's it, right? Yeah. All of us, you know, we'd consider ourselves hardcore gamers for Undisputed, right? And I think for us, again, it's that balancing act between, like, do we take, if 5% of the community says the game isn't great and 95% say that it is, I'm just throwing random numbers here, right? But the concept applies, and I think for us, we can't develop out of fear, right? We can't do this in case a small portion of our community is not going to like this, right? It's how studios close. And I think for us, we have to listen to, you know, our entire audience. And sometimes that's difficult when a large chunk of your audience who are enjoying the game aren't spending time on Discord or forums.
Yeah, that's true.
Complaining about things,
that's
right?
True.
So for us, it's about taking that balanced view of, like, how can we expand the game? How can we bring a new audience in? Because, you know, for Undisputed to be successful, for the studio to be successful, and for you guys to get the game that you want, you know, we have to have enough revenue to increase the size of our team, right? And make it better. So I think in terms of, like, the championship edition, I don't think we've spoken about what's coming in features wise, right?
No.
But there will be some things coming in there. So it's not just a case of, hey, this is just a rebadge of Undisputed. There's new features coming in.
Yeah, okay. See, that and then it's kind of too the communication, because I feel like if that were to be said, even, you know, that 5% in that Discord, it wouldn't have been what it was the day that was announced.
Yeah. And look, listen, we can always do better when it comes to communicating, right? I think I've always wanted our studio to be as transparent as possible in speaking to you guys and giving all the information that we can give.
Yeah, for sure.